Let the madness begin, baby. It is here. We've been waiting for it, and now it's here. My name is Jason Hammer, alongside comedian extraordinaire, damn fine American Scott Long, and our statistician, which is fancy talk for nerd, Peter Hood. This is the Hammer and Long March Madness Primer. And what we're going to do is not only help you win your bracket pool, we're going to help you bet on these games and win some money with the spreads, with the totals, because that's the way we get down. So let's not waste any more time. Let's start in the East region. And Scott, Purdue, the number one seed in the East region. I'm hearing a lot of chatter of people saying Purdue was disrespected with this region because of the teams that are in there. Purdue, conference winner, conference tournament winner. What say you?
I love to waste time, first off. So that sounds like way too much pressure, I'm going to tell you. Secondly, are we not bored to death already by ESPN's Duke coverage? I mean, we get Jay Billis, we get Dookie V, we get ACC, my buddy, from Virginia Tech, coach extraordinaire, Seth Greenberg, but it's all ACC talk. And Duke is so good. This team a month ago was a mess. So, no, I don't think this is that tough of a bracket for Purdue. Do I think Purdue has a great record? No. They scare the hell out of me every week. That's why, like on our TV show, I will be drinking during the show to give you some of these picks.
Well, one thing that I don't tolerate, Scott, is people who drink alone. So cheers, my friend. Peter, what sticks out to you with the East region?
What sticks out to me is this Kool-Aid jammer that I'm about to down. You guys know I'm about to become a dad. We're gonna have a little baby. We don't need alcohol. We don't need booze flying around here. So
you are so wrong. That's all you're gonna need. Now go and give us your picks, Peter.
I learned last week the hard way, Scott. When you're an expecting dad, the one thing you don't want to tell your wife, your pregnant wife, when she tells you she needs something, you don't want to tell her, hold on, honey, I'm watching Texas A&M Corpus Christi versus Southeastern Louisiana right now. That is not, for all the expecting dads out there, that is not the avenue you want to go down. I learned that lesson the hard way last week. Scott, you've probably learned that before yourself, too.
Yeah, you just sold your new nerd credentials. I'm just going to tell you right now, I love two games in that East region, and I'm going to get right to them right now. First off, my best bet of the first round is Michigan State versus USC. Michigan State, only a 2-point favorite. The Pac-10, as I still call it, because let's be truthful, it's about the Pac-4. That's about how many good teams there were, and we're exaggerating.
Pac-4, 5, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I love Michigan State in this circumstance. If I'm nervous, if I'm Purdue, that's a team that really makes me nervous, is Michigan State, because they know them. They have more experience at guard. USC will fall apart against Michigan State in this circumstance. So that's my number one best bet of the whole tournament. Let's just get it out there. 7 seed Michigan State versus USC, which should be, I don't know, in Rutgers, and Rutgers should be here.
To me, answer your question.
My best bet of this region, hold on for a second, Peter.
Yep.
My best bet of this region, it breaks my heart to do this because you guys know I bleed orange. I'm Mr. Rocky Top, but this is a Tennessee Volunteer squad with a 4 seed that lost their starting point guard. Now, keep in mind, this was not a really good offensive team to begin with. I think they might get through the first round against the Raging Cajuns, but I'm seeing that line at 10.5. I will scoop up the 10.5 with Louisiana against Tennessee right here. Peter, what are you looking at?
Well, I don't know exactly what way I lean exactly, but you asked me what game was the most intriguing. This Memphis FAU game. I don't know if people realize, I mean, obviously you see the records with FAU. I mean, they won 30 games this year. They would have gotten in regardless if they had won their conference tournament or not in Conference USA. That's how good they were at the mid-major level. But if you look at analytically, which obviously that's why I'm here, I'm the nerd, you said it, that's what I do. If you look analytically, obviously KenPom is what people look at for the entire year. There's another website that you look at called Bart Torvik, which basically you can take certain chunks of time to see how teams performed in those certain chunks of time. And what I look at going into the NCAA tournament, how did you perform in the last month? How did you perform from the third weekend of February until now? FAU and Memphis have both been top 10 teams in the country, regardless of conference. So you're talking about two teams that are playing at a really high level. It's basically a pick 'em. I think Memphis is a 1-point favorite right now. But I think the winner of that game, Scott, you said you're not worried about Purdue. I'd be extremely worried about Purdue, regardless if it's FAU or Memphis. I'd be more worried if it's Memphis because of the athleticism, because of the guard play with Kendrick Davis. That FAU team is legit. I think that's going to be probably the most entertaining game, at least the most entertaining 8-9 game of the first round, Memphis FAU.
Hammer, I'm going to let you talk for a little bit, but we did a pre-meeting on this. You remember the part where I said, Peter, you talk for about 15% of the time. Hammer, you talk for about 45%. Wow, I think you lost all your strikes on that. I just took another shot during that because
I'm going to mute myself.
I nodded off, but I will share. It reminded me when I did a comedy show for blockchain, and I told them what I learned about blockchain was I'm narcoleptic every time I hear the word blockchain. Now,
all right,
Hammer, tell us what you've got to offer.
So listen, I want to take us down through this region here. We're going to go rapid fire. I'm going to name the game. You tell me who you got. This is just in terms of filling out a bracket. If something sticks out to you about the point spread, speak up. So Purdue against the play-in winner. I think we're all on Purdue here. No point spread for that yet. Memphis, as of the time we're filming this, is a 2-point favorite against Florida Atlantic. I like Memphis to cover the 2. Scott?
I'm going to take Florida Atlantic. If Memphis gets past them, then it gets scary. But Florida Atlantic, I think, is a good matchup for Memphis, who I think will be flat going against a team they don't think is at the same level.
Peter?
I got Memphis. I just think they're playing too well right now, and I think too highly of Kendrick Davis. I'll take Memphis in that one.
So the sexy 12-5 matchup for a lot of people is Duke and Oral Roberts. Now, 32 of the last 37 tournaments, a 12 has beaten a 5. Duke, at the time of this recording, is a 6.5-point favorite against Oral Roberts. Peter, Scott, either one of you like Oral here?
Love it. And yes.
I had to do it, right? Like it's the obligatory joke in that moment.
No, and you were so right. And this is a gambling podcast, so of course you have to go that direction. Yes, I like Oral by about 6.5. It seems fitting for me.
I'm with Scott. I also like Oral.
Does Duke advance in your brackets, guys, or do you have Oral?
I think Duke will win, but I think it's going to be a nail biter, and Dookie V will be asleep, but Jay Billis will be nervous.
So let's fly through these rest of these games quickly here. Tell me who you have moving on. Tennessee and Louisiana. I got Tennessee to move on. I like Louisiana as a bet with the points. I love it. I love Louisiana in that circumstance too. Tennessee can't beat anybody by 10.5 points. Now they'll probably win 46-39. Their defense is great, but no, I'm not a Rick Barnes guy in the NCAA tournament.
Tennessee wins. Tennessee covers.
Kentucky against Providence. The Wildcats are a 4-point favorite. This is the 6-11 matchup. Scott?
Every year, Kentucky comes off, and they're like, what happened to Kentucky the last, 5 or 6 years? This is a little bit of a sneaky Kentucky team. Providence, who I have a lot of respect for, coaching stuff, they've really fallen apart in the Big East the last, 3 or 4 weeks. I like Kentucky. I like that small number. That's the smallest number Kentucky's probably had in the first round in decades.
Hate Providence right now. Like Scott said, they're playing terrible. I'll take Kentucky minus the points. I think they win and they cover.
I like Kentucky as well.
SEC
not
Hammer.
betting, and not betting it, but I like Kentucky in this one. Some of these games, I just don't have a good feel on the line. But if there's one that I like, I'll certainly let you know. Let's go to number 3 against number 14, Kansas State taking on Montana State. Kansas State is an 8.5-point favorite. I like Kansas State to cover, Kansas State to move on. Scott?
This is my second best bet in this region. Love Montana State. They match up well against the Wildcats. I think Kansas State could be a problem for some teams, But as I said, a lot of people think Kansas State is so great. They think Duke is so great. I don't think this region is as talented as people think. I like Montana State. They just match up well. I think Kansas State will probably win the game, but I love the 8.5.
It's a turnover thing for Kansas State. That's their biggest issue. Montana State can turn you over. They can get to the free throw line at a high rate. So I'm with Scott. I think Montana State covers. I don't know that I'd take them to win. I think Kansas State's guards are good enough to get them to the finish line, but I would take Montana State plus the points there.
So we've already heard from Scott on Michigan State and USC. So Peter, I'm going to throw it to you. Michigan State, the 7 seed, USC, the 10. Sparty's laying 2. Man, this one could go either way for me because I just don't love this Michigan State team the way Scott does. I don't love USC either. Begrudgingly, I have USC over Michigan State here. Not betting it, picking it just straight up money line to move on.
Yeah, I think it's hard to bet against Izzo this time of year, right? And I think the biggest factor for me, I mean, it's a coin flip. You could, like you said, you could go either way. Drew Peterson, USC's best player, is a little bit banged up. Like if you watch the Pac-12 tournament, he just doesn't look right physically right now. And if he's going to be banged up going against that Michigan State backcourt, I'll take Michigan State minus the small number.
And the last matchup in the Eastern region, number 2, Marquette, number 15, Vermont, the Catamounts. 11 is the spread for Marquette, Scott.
I think Marquette has kind of been the sexy pick for this region. I mean, they're just the second seed. They're very hot right now. Great connectivity, Kolek, great point guard. I think they get past this number, but not as big of a fan of Marquette, I think, as a lot of people believe them to be. So what I'm trying to tell you is I believe in Purdue actually winning this region. I can't believe I just said it, but I did. But Marquette will cover.
I like Vermont plus the points. I think Marquette wins the game, but if you look last couple of months, Vermont's really struggled early in the year. Mid-January, they turned it on. They found something clicked, and they've been playing at a really high level ever since. Their numbers are a little bit skewed because of the way they struggled early in the year, but they're playing at a high level. The three-point variance in this game is insane. Both teams shoot a lot of threes. It's going to come down to who makes shots, but I think Vermont makes enough to stay within 10 or so.
All right, let's move on to the South region here. And a lot of people are saying this tournament is Alabama's to lose. Do you buy that argument, Scott Long?
I do. If you haven't followed, a lot of our fans probably haven't been following college basketball that closely. Now, all of a sudden, we're all very close in. Maybe you only followed one conference. The SEC is so loaded, except nobody can shoot except for Alabama. That's it. You look at every team, even Texas A&M, who almost won in their SEC tournament. They can't shoot. No one can shoot except for Alabama. That's why I like them. 3-point shooting, SEC, bad, really bad. Probably the worst conference in all of college basketball, but really hard to take anyone. But who wants to take the first seed? There's no money in that. So if you want to take kind of a outside the box person team, I would go with the Creighton Blue Jays, the 6th seed, very talented, expected to be a top 10, 15 team at the start of the year, had some injuries, didn't close out well, but I think they could turn it on. I would like Creighton as the one team that could get out of here at seed 6.
And one thing I think we need to bring up is if you're filling out your bracket for an office pool, or maybe you've put in $10 to do something.
Sure.
You don't win your pool by getting a million upsets right in the first round. You win your pool by getting your Final Four and by getting your championship right. So that's more important than your first round upsets. So remember that when you're filling out your brackets. Peter, what sticks out to you about the South?
Yeah, I'm with Scott. I mean, I think this is it's the easiest region if you're looking at it from an Alabama perspective, and that's how it should be, right? I mean, they're the number 1 overall seed. They should have the easiest path. I think they do. I'll be pretty surprised if they don't make it out of the region. Their talent level, I think. I'm not a big Arizona guy. The more I watch Arizona down the stretch, I just don't think there's a toughness missing with that team. I'm not a big fan of their backcourt, even though they're older, and Kirk Kreese is kind of banged up right now as well with his shoulder. So if you're looking for a sleeper, I'm not saying this team's going to go to the Final Four, though I may have placed a small wager on plus 7,500 for them to do so. Utah State, a sneaky good, really good basketball team.
Wow.
I know people want to fade the Mountain West because of how bad they've been in this thing the last few years. There's going to come a point, maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, where this league is going to have a year where they perform really well in this dance. Just like the Big Ten, there's going to be a year where they turn this thing around. It's only a matter of time. And I think Utah State's playing at as high a level as any mid-major in the country, right there with Florida Atlantic. They can shoot the crap out of it. And they got multiple older dudes in the backcourt with Funk and with Ashworth. So I got a little bit of money on Utah State to go to the Sweet 16, a little bit to the Final Four. Creighton I like as well, like Scott. But I think it's Alabama's to lose. I'm with Scott on that.
All right, let's fly through the games here in the South region. Again, Alabama, no spread yet. They're going to play a play-in winner. We'll worry about them later. Kind of an ugly game that I think is going to be competitive. Not necessarily one that I want to watch is Maryland and West Virginia. This is the 8 against the 9 here. And West Virginia is a 2-point favorite. Scott, where are you at?
This is my best bet of the South. This is my second best bet next to Michigan State in the whole first round. Love West Virginia, -2. Young Maryland team against two of the toughest guards in college basketball. West Virginia wants to beat you up. They are more Big Ten than Maryland on many levels. I think West Virginia, who has been peaking the last 3 or 4 weeks, finds their answer. Love Huggy Bear in the tournament. I am all over West Virginia, Morgantown, -2. I look at this as an 8-point game.
Wow, 8 points.
Peter?
I don't know. To me, it's a coin flip. I really could go either way. I think West Virginia's playing a little bit better right now, and I do trust their backcourt a little bit more. I do trust Bob Huggins as well, obviously, come tournament time. So I lean West Virginia, but no real strong feelings on this game.
I have strong feelings that neither one of you know the term rapid fire through these games, and neither one of you know what this term means. Give me your pick. Give me your side. We got a lot of games to get to. Sweet mother of all that's pure. All right, let's keep it rolling here. We've got San Diego State against Charleston. Again, the sexy 12 versus 5 pick. A lot of people jumping on Charleston. I ain't doing it. Give me San Diego State.
Ooh.
Thank
Charleston.
you.
There you go.
I'm with Hammer. Give me San Diego State.
A game where the first 1 to 10 may win. Virginia against Furman. We've got the 4 seed against the 13 seed. Virginia, 5.5-point favorite. I am not touching this game. You couldn't get me to bet on this game with Peter's money, but I think Virginia finds a way to get through. I have another pick on this game later in the show, but in terms of this game only, Scott, what are we looking at?
I'm big on fading the ACC, and Peter, I guess now is part of the Mountain West committee now. Are you the president of the Mountain West? This is a league that went 0-9 the last couple of years, but all right. I would just speak to, I'm fading the ACC, but come on, no, that's too small. Furman has never faced a team of this quality before. They fade. I like Virginia. Virginia's not going to deal with any UMBC issues ever again.
I like Virginia as well. Mike Bothwell, obviously, really good player for Furman. Virginia's got the ACC Defensive Player of the Year in Reese Beekman, so I think that's enough to get them the win and the cover.
Now, based on your guys' comments earlier, I know you both like Creighton to win the game over NC State, but do you like them to cover 5.5, Scott?
Yeah, I like them. North Carolina State, really slim shady that they should even be in this tournament. That's another school. I think the ACC is way down. So, yes, I like Creighton a lot. I think this line's off by 4 or 5 points.
I lean Creighton, not strongly. I do think NC State's guards can give Creighton some issues in their ball screen actions and things like that. But if I had to go gun to head, I'd say Creighton minus the points.
We got the number 3 seed Baylor, the number 14 seed Gauchos, University of California, Santa Barbara. This is my favorite bet of the South region. And again, I'm not trying to be a chalk eating weasel. I'm not. But sometimes we can talk strategy. We can talk this or that. Better athletes are on the floor. Baylor has the better athletes on the floor. They're not as good as they were before. They're not as good as they were a couple of years ago. Better coach, better athletes. I will take Baylor to cover 10.5.
I don't like this game at all. I mean, I think the spread's about right. I can't trust Baylor right now, but Hammer, I would probably lean your direction. The Gauchos have had some really good moments this year, but I would lean the Bears.
I have no idea on Baylor. They could lose in the first round or they could go to the Final Four. I think that's where I'm at with them. I don't have a good feel. If I had to go one way in this game, I would lean UCSB plus the points.
The 7-10 matchup up in the South, you've got the Fighting Peter Hoods of Utah State taking on the 7 seed of Missouri. This is a game that I don't like at all. I'm leaning Utah State. I'm kind of with Peter on this one. I've seen Missouri. They're Jekyll and Hyde. They've had some wins against Tennessee, but this was a Tennessee team limping to the finish here. Flip a coin. I just think Utah State's better. Scott?
It's a pretty good matchup for Utah State, but I do fade the Mountain West. It's made me rich in that first round of the NCAA tournament the last couple of years. And I hope Steve Alford wins in that first round because I love fading Steve Alford. He never covers in that first game, and usually if he makes it to the second, he doesn't either. Yeah, I'll go with the Utah State team in this circumstance.
What do you think, Hammer? I'm the president of the Utah State fan club here, so you know who I'm rolling with.
I'm with you. I'm going to ride Utah State. Now, whoever wins this game is going to get their doors blown off in the next game.
Yes.
So again, you're not going to make or break your bracket by getting this game right or wrong, but I'll go Utah State in this one. And the last one, Arizona, Princeton, the 2, the 15. It's a big number, 14.5. I think we've all got Arizona to win the game. Anybody want a piece of the 14.5?
I personally hate no team more than Arizona this year. I can't stand Krisa. I can't stand that their guards don't get it to possibly one of the 2 or 3 best front courts in college basketball. I hear that Tommy Lloyd's a great coach. He was under Mark Few. I haven't seen it this year. Arizona struggled last year with a much more talented team. I think people that think they are a chance to beat Alabama are crazy. That's my lean. I don't like Arizona to cover that big of a spread. I'll take the dog.
I'm 100% with you. I'll take Princeton plus the points. Arizona's big guys are going to have a hard time covering what Princeton does offensively, all the motion. I think that Princeton, that's too many points. I think Arizona wins, but I think Princeton covers.
And what you see in the tournament, when you have a big number like that, let's say Arizona's up by 20, they're going to pull starters because they're playing again very shortly. So you see that a lot with some of these big numbers and heavy favorites in March Madness. Let's swing over to the Midwest side of the bracket here. The number 1 seed, Kelvin Sampson. No good lying, cheating ass Kelvin Sampson and the Houston Cougs, the number 1 seed. You've got Texas, the Longhorns, as a number 2. Anything stick out to you, Scott, in the Midwest?
Well, it'll be interesting if Houston and Texas play. You know, you've got Houston, you got Texas. I mean, you know, it would be the dream scenario of people in Texas. I don't root for Texas. I don't root for the state. I got to tell you, not a fan. I feel like it's its own country. And I would also share with you, I don't root for Houston. And I think who knows what reason it is, but Sasser, the best player on Houston, the one player that is a difference maker that could put them as a national championship. Not playing. Does he play? Easy walk first couple rounds, probably, but I'm a little nervous about Houston, but this is not a strong region, so we'll see what happens.
And Texas does have some of the best tax laws in all of America. I'd like to point that out, Peter.
They do. There are positives.
Scott, I think you may agree with me on this. If correct me if I'm wrong, but you are a card-carrying member of the Tucker DeVries fan club, correct?
Well, Drake is the best 12 seed and the hottest 12 seed. And I think Penn State is the best 10 seed and the hottest 10 seed. So you got two teams in there that are really special. I think the lower teams are better. Look at Texas A&M as a 7 seed. What the hell happened with this 7-10 seed? Hammer, tell us when we get to that, because that blows my mind.
All right, let's go down the games here of the Midwest region. Houston, the number 1 seed, taking on Northern Kentucky. This is your 116 matchup. It's a big number. The number is 19. I think we've all got Houston winning. Anybody want a piece of 19? I don't.
I lean Houston in that. I just don't think Northern Kentucky has any answer for the big people and the athletes that you'll see. I think Houston will get every rebound in that game.
Exactly right.
On here. The 8-9 matchup. This is the game where God bless the referee. Whoever the official is that has to get between Fran McCaffrey and Bruce Pearl, he's not making enough money. Buy that man a recovery beer or 5 after the game. We've got Iowa as an 8, Auburn as a 9. Game opened up as a pick'em. Now it's down to Auburn -1, still basically a pick'em. Scott, Mr. Iowa, Mr. Hawkeye, you taking your boys?
This is a home game basically for Auburn. Who is ever going to be a 9th seed and gets a home game? This is in Birmingham, Alabama. Ridiculous. You think Fran's not going to be pissed? He's furious just thinking about driving or flying to Birmingham, Alabama. I don't like this game at all. It's going to be a great game to watch. I hope both coaches lose their mind, but they're buddies, so they won't fight with each other. It's not a Mike Woodson, Fran McCaffrey thing, but don't like this game. I would lean Auburn since they're at home.
Peter?
Hey, Scott leans he's Mr. Iowa. He's got as good a read on that team as anybody. So if Scott leans Auburn, I'll lean Auburn. I don't really have a strong feel either way, but it will be entertaining as hell to watch.
I'm at the point now, if I'm going to bet this game, I'll take the dog because you're getting plus money. So right now, Iowa is plus 100. There's really not that much of a difference for me. It's kind of a coin flip. Both these teams are the same to me. I'll take the team that's going to give me the payout. If I'm betting this, give me the Hawkeyes here. All right, let's move on to Miami taking on Drake. This is a 5-12. The Hurricanes. They're banged up. They're deep at guard, though. They're banged up. -2.5. Scott?
Allegedly, Miami won the NIL sweepstakes when they paid $800,000 for Nigel Pack to leave Kansas State. Not played that well. Hunter at Texas has not played that well either, leaving Iowa State. It's been kind of interesting that way. Miami used up all their luck last year when they made their march, their very surprising march. Drake is an old team. They got like 25-year-old dudes. They look like they would be playing at the Y. They don't look like they're all in great shape, but they can all play basketball. They're all very cohesive. And the coach's son, DeVries, is an NBA-level player. He's kind of a poor man's, McDermott. That's how I would describe it.
I love Drake. I couldn't love Drake more. Just like Utah State, I sprinkled a little bit on Drake to go to the Sweet 16, a little bit on Drake to go to the Final Four. They showed a graphic on ESPN recently. Scott mentioned how old they are. The Drake starting lineup is actually older than the Oklahoma City Thunder starting lineup. That is how old the dudes who will be on the floor for Drake are. And when you've got experience like that, and like Scott said, they're going to have the best player on the floor in Tucker DeVries. And they're playing right now at that level of Florida Atlantic and Utah State. You can put them in that category with how they've played. They just rolled through the Missouri Valley, killed a really good Bradley team in the tournament final.
And when you're playing street ball, when you're down at the park here, I'm going to cut you off because you're talking too much. When you're playing street ball down at the park, who runs the court? Who runs the show?
Yeah.
It's not the young dude. It's the old men. It's the old dudes that are sweaty. You don't want to touch them because there's back fat and there's hair and there's sweat coming off of sweat. These are the dudes you don't want to play. And that's who Drake is. I'm with you. Let's move on. We got some ground to make up here. Indiana, the Hoosiers taking on Kent State. They are getting a taste of some action. Kent State 13, Indiana a 4. 4 is the line. So many storylines here. Where are we at, Scott?
This seemed like a great play for Kent State because I thought the line would be 7 or 8. Now Indiana, all they've heard, you're only a 4-point favorite over this. Not one kid ever even got a letter from Kent State to go to IU. I like the talent of Indiana. I do not see how they can keep it within 4. I know it's trendy. I like the Hoosiers in this spot.
Mr. Ball State here. For those who don't know, I watch more MAC basketball than any man should be proud to admit. Kent State's really good. Like, they're really good. They're tough as hell, but they're tiny. They're one of the smallest teams in the country. When they played Gonzaga earlier this year, Drew Timme killed them. I see no way they're able to slow Trace Jackson Davis down unless he gets in foul trouble. So that's a really small number for IU. I think they do cover the 4.5.
We've got Iowa State taking on the play-in winner from Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. And listen, I'll take the play-in winner. I like either one of those teams over Iowa State. It's a fade of Iowa State for me. I think Pittsburgh probably wins the play-in game, but I like them, whoever it is, to beat Iowa State. Scott, where are we?
Yeah, I feel like Iowa State and Miami, who played each other last year, 2 surprise teams in the Sweet 16. I don't see it this round. I don't see it this year. They have good guards, but both teams really Iowa State looks like an SEC team because they struggle really hard to score. They kind of remind me of Tennessee. Hard to believe that they might be able to cover one game, but I don't see them getting past 1.
I have no idea, but I know that if it's Mississippi State, Iowa State, it's going to set basketball back about 40 years. It's going to be the ugliest game of basketball we've ever seen, probably in the NCAA tournament. So just don't watch it. That's my advice. Don't watch the game.
We've got Xavier, the Musketeers, the number 3 seed, taking on Kennesaw State. It's a big number. Number is 11. I think we all like Xavier to advance. Anybody got to play on the spread one way or the other? Scott, you got anything?
Yeah, I lean Xavier. I feel like the team has actually kind of played better since their star Fremantle has kind of left because they were running a Twin Towers offense with Jack Nungy. I don't feel like that works too often in modern college basketball. I think their rotations have gotten tighter. And Jesus, did I sound like a basketball expert right there? Cheers to me.
Listen to that guy. The booze is kicking in. I like it. Peter, you touching 11?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to lay 11, but I think Xavier does win relatively comfortably. I love their backcourt. Like Scott said, they've been way better defensively since Fremantle got hurt.
All right, so this is the game that's kind of an eyebrow raiser. The 7-10, Texas A&M as a 7, Penn State as a 10 seed here. A&M, 2.5-point favorite. Penn State's got that momentum. They got the backcourt. Mr. Eyebrow, Mr. Scott Long. You touching any one of these teams here?
Yeah, I really like Penn State in this circumstance. There were 3 games that I liked in this region. This is one of them. Texas A&M has played really well, but they've not been facing teams who can shoot. The SEC is filled with dogs when it comes to the 3-point line. They can't shoot. Penn State can, and they run a really weird offense, which if you're not prepared for it, really hard to handle. I love what Penn State's done. They're men like Drake as well. This is a tough team to face.
You guys remember last year when A&M didn't get in the tournament and Buzz Williams had that 30-minute press conference where he just ripped the committee mercilessly? I think that maybe cost him a couple of seed lines here. I think this was the committee's way of clapping back a little bit at Buzz. I'm with you, Scott. I love Shrewsbury. I just think he's the closest thing we've seen to Brad Stevens in college basketball since Stevens left in terms of his game planning. And I just think if you're going to give me a couple of points in that matchup, I like Texas A&M too, but I'm going to take the points with Penn State.
I'm on Penn State money line. I'll take Penn State with the points. I like Penn State to advance. And I love where you're going, Peter. Get that tinfoil hat on here. The conference, the committee, they're still ticked off from a press conference from a year ago, baby. This is the kind of stuff that I'm here for. All right, rounding out the Midwest region, Texas, Colgate, big number. We all know the Longhorns probably going to advance here. I think we all feel that way. 14 is the number. Anybody touching 14?
No, I really think Texas. Colgate's not seen anything like it. You could put Crest up against him. You could put Aim. You could put Close up against him. I like the Texas in this circumstance. They've never seen guards like Texas.
Yeah, I'm with Scott. As you'll hear later in the show, I'm a huge fan of Texas. The way they're playing right now, I think you could argue they're playing better than any team in the country. And this is not one of Colgate's better teams. They've brought a lot of teams to the tournament over the last few years. This team does not have Nelly Cummings, who's now at Pittsburgh. So I think Texas wins pretty easily here.
All right, we got one more region to go. After this region, we'll give our final four picks. Scott's got some more action. Peter's got some action. I've got a little something special for you. So let's go to the West region, shall we? Where the Jayhawks, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, the number 1 seed, banged up UCLA comes in at number 2. Take a look at this West region. What games stick out to you?
This region sticks out to me as brutal. I think there are so many good teams in this region. I think this one is way loaded. I haven't heard that from everybody, but wow, Kansas, you win the national title. You win the Big 12. Your coach is sick, and boom, everything changes. Maybe if you want to get the tinfoil on, maybe the NCAA wasn't crazy about a team who was on probation and the coach couldn't even coach part of last year that won this national title. It didn't look good. They loaded up this region. I like a lot of teams in this region. I think 1 through 9, it's pretty much a gauntlet. Good luck, Kansas. You're going to earn it.
Peter, what sticks out to you?
I'm with Scott. I could absolutely see this thing getting blown up. If you told me right now that we'd have an Elite 8 of Arkansas versus TCU, it wouldn't shock me one bit. And if you told me it was Kansas versus UCLA, it wouldn't shock me one bit. I do think this is, along with Purdue's region, I think this is probably the deepest region and the hardest one to pick. I do really like Gonzaga, though, the way they're playing, the way they're playing right now, the way they're sharing the ball. I think they're the team to beat. But boy, that second round matchup with TCU, you talk about entertaining. I mean, that could be the game of the tournament, the way those two teams get up and down.
All right, let's run the gauntlet here. Number 1, Kansas, number 16, Howard. And this is the biggest number of the first round. 21.5 is the line. Scott, what do you think?
You know what? Don't play this. Just stay away from it. That's too many points. I don't feel good about that at all. It is the biggest line. There used to be 30-point lines, and Vegas got pretty smart. They realized that teams just don't play as hard, and they kind of protect themselves, as Hammer brought up. Play Kansas first half if you want to play this line, because I think the second half, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, too many points. I'll lean Howard, but I'm with Scott. No strong feelings. Stay away.
All right, this is my favorite game of this region here. The 8-9 Arkansas taking on Illinois. Arkansas is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm in on Arkansas. I will lay the 2.5. I think the Razorbacks advance. I think they beat Illinois. I am not a fan of this Illinois squad. I will lay the 2.5 with Pig Suey. Scott.
You know who else I don't think is a fan of the Illinois team? Their coach. I think Brad Underwood does more eye rolling, like, he does this constantly during the game. I think he loved his teams the last 3 or 4 years. He hates this group of transfers. They looked beautiful. This was one of those, let's buy a team, let's put them together. Individually, they're as talented as any team in this region. But as a team, they ain't a team. They could beat almost anybody. I like Arkansas in this spot. I think Musselman is a great tournament coach. You don't want to play Arkansas in that second round.
You could make a legitimate argument that just in terms of pure talent, Arkansas is the second most talented team in this field behind Alabama. They've got 3 first-round picks on their roster. They got old dudes with Davis. I just don't see how Illinois, who I put them in the Providence category if they just have not been playing well over the last few weeks. I don't see how they rally. I think Arkansas has been playing better down the stretch here. And I would definitely lay the points with Arkansas.
So now we move on to the interesting 12-5 matchup in the West. And again, everybody knows 12 beats a 5. We talked about it earlier. If I'm hitching my wagon to a 12 beating a 5, now it happened twice last year, but this is the one that I like the most. I like VCU over number 5 St. Mary's. It's a fate of St. Mary's, but VCU can play. VCU is a pretty athletic squad, and St. Mary's seems like their season has already peaked. We've seen them play some bad basketball down the stretch. Gonzaga just beating the absolute brakes off of them, wasn't even competitive. St. Mary's is the favorite. They're laying 4. I'll pick up the 4 with VCU. Scott?
It's interesting because St. Mary's really struggled against the press when BYU made a long run back into that game and almost won it. I would definitely take the points. I know all the metric systems love St. Mary's, and they've been wrong for a while. The WCC is not as good this year as it had been the last 2 or 3 years.
I really hate agreeing with you guys, but VCU's the right side here. I'm with you.
So all 3 of us are on VCU. So bet the mortgage on St. Mary's. That's what you're telling me. So we got UConn as a 4 seed, Iona as a 13. The Fighting Rick Pitino's, they're getting 9.5. Who do you like to advance? Do you have any action on the spread?
I like UConn a lot, but 9.5 makes me nervous. I think Rick Pitino's got 1 foot in the door in Iona, and he's got about 6 feet in everywhere else because he's going somewhere big again where they have good Italian food, and it ain't Louisville. So I would share with you right now, take Iona 9.5. This is going to be an interesting game as much as I do like UConn.
9.5 feels like about the right number to me. I don't really lean too strongly either way. I don't trust UConn's guards not to turn the ball over, but I also don't trust Iona's bigs to keep UConn off the glass. So I don't really lean either way here.
So we've got TCU as a 6 seed. They're going to play one of the first 4 teams, whether it's Arizona State or the Fighting Steve Alfords of Nevada. I like TCU to win that game no matter who they play. Scott, Peter, anybody different on that?
I not only love TCU in that game, I'm really interested to see the spread because Arizona State or Nevada does not have bad dudes down low. And TCU is filled with grown men. They almost marched through last year in an amazing tournament game that they almost pulled the upset. Love TCU in this spot.
Yeah, Sam, I think TCU will have the ability to crush whichever team they play on the glass. And like Scott said, there's too many grown men on that roster. The tournament experience they gained last year, Nevada and Arizona State weren't dancing last year. Hard not to lean TCU with whatever matchup it is.
Gonzaga as a 3, Grand Canyon. Bryce Drew and company making it into the big dance. And the Zags are a 16-point favorite.
I like Grand Canyon. I think the Zags will be flat. When the Zags want to really turn it up, they look great, but I don't see them blowing this game out. I've seen them too often in the tournament struggle against some of the lower seeds in regards to covering big numbers. So I like Grand Canyon. They got some experience in the tourney. Give me them.
I'll go the Zags. I just think they're playing at way too high a level offensively right now. Grand Canyon didn't miss a 3 the entire WAC tournament. They're due for some regression. I think the Zags win by 20 plus.
The 7-10 matchup, Northwestern taking on Boise State. The Wildcats of Northwestern, only a 1.5 point favorite here, Scott.
Okay, Peter, you being the commissioner of the Mountain West this year, finally found a team that has a good matchup. Boise State is a grinder team. You wouldn't think that maybe being out in the Mountain West, but they are. I like Rice, the coach. I think Northwestern has known how to play a lot of Big Ten teams, but I just got this feeling that Boise State, the Broncos, are the right direction, getting those points. I think they're an outright winner. It'll be close, but I like them.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I think Utah State and San Diego State have been doing this in the Mountain West down the stretch, and I think Boise State's been doing a little bit of this. I just don't think they're trending in the right direction. I like Northwestern's backcourt. I think, honestly, if Northwestern gets UCLA in the second round, that could be a dangerous game for UCLA. So I'll take the Wildcats minus the points against Boise.
I've never liked Northwestern in win or go home type situations. They didn't do well in the Big Ten tournament. Last time they made the big dance, they crapped the bed. This feels like Scott said, they know the scouting report on the Big Ten. Can they get out of their comfort zone here? I'm not in love with Boise. I'm not going to bet this game, but I got Boise in my bracket to move on. Last matchup in the West, UCLA, the number 2, UNC Asheville, the 15. The line is 17.5 with the Bruins.
Oh, the Bruins. That was my team. I had bought them at very good prices earlier in the year when their record was just good, and I felt great about them being a potential national championship team. Then they lose the defensive player of the year in the Pac-12, Jalen Clark. Bona, who is also a really important inside piece for UCLA, might not be playing as well. Yeah, they're going to win this game, but I have a hard time imagining this is a team that can cover 16.5 right now. Take the dog.
Yeah, the pace UCLA plays at, we don't know what Bona's health level is going to be. And Drew Pembert for UNC Asheville is as good a mid-major big as there is in the country. So I would take the points with Asheville as well.
All right, so we've gone through region by region here. In just a moment, I'm going to get your guys' final 4 picks, your national champion. Before we get there, Scott Long, give us your best bet of the entire NCAA tournament first round. If you have a long shot, see what we did there, Scott Long shot, give that to us as well.
Well, as I said earlier, that is my favorite pick. Michigan State right out of the gate against USC. That is definitely my best bet. And let's go right back to that region. Kansas State, the most surprising team quite possibly in all of college basketball, lost its best player, lost its coach, and they've been amazing in the best conference in college basketball. Saying all that, like Montana State, it's about matchups. So give me the 2 with Michigan State versus USC, and my long shot, plus 8.5, take Montana State against the Wildcats of Kansas State.
All right, so Peter, the analytics nerd that you are, we tasked you with a little segment we call Ballin on a Budget. So if somebody has just $5, they can't even really afford to get into the bracket pool at work because it's usually 10. They got $5 to their name. Their favorite sportsbook app is brought up on their phone. How do they turn $5 into something big?
Here it is. I got it right here. I got the parlay pulled up. You're looking at plus 890 on this bad boy. So $5 will win you about 45, so a $50 payout. Here's what I'm going with. It's a money line parlay with a game from each region. So Utah State, this is all to win, not to cover, all just to win straight up. Utah State to beat Missouri, Arkansas to beat Illinois, Kentucky to beat Providence, and the one that gives us the juice for this parlay is Drake to beat Miami. Obviously, the Bulldogs are plus money, being 2.5-point underdogs. As you guys heard earlier, I'm very high on Drake. I'm very high on Utah State. I love those 2 mid-majors. And I just don't think I'm fading Providence and I'm fading Illinois in the other 2. So there's a 4-teamer, 4-leg moneyline parlay plus 900 odds.
Which 12 seed do you guys like the most? Charleston against San Diego State, Drake against Miami, VCU against St. Mary's, and Oral Roberts against Duke. We're not talking about point spreads. We're talking about survive in advance, win the game. Mine's VCU. Do you have a 12 versus 5 that you like, Scott?
Peter and I, you don't even have to call on Peter. We both love Drake in this circumstance, right, Peter? Just shake your head.
I mean, I do love oral, but I also like Drake. Yes.
There we go.
How to get another oral reference in. God bless you, gentlemen. All right. So when we do our TV program, we have a segment called Prop, Lock, or Drop It. And usually I have player props. Today, we're going to do a little something different. Okay. I've got 3 words for you. First half unders. I've got some first half unders that we're going to play. And the reasons why, I want you to follow along with me here. Okay. So the first one, we're looking at Virginia taking on Furman. The over-under first half is 61.5. We are going to drop that one under. You know why? Because Tony Bennett is an under machine in the first half. Plus, they scored 17 in the first half against Duke recently. Virginia's going to play their defense. They're not an offensive juggernaut. They'll shut down Furman. That, my friends, is a first half under. We're also looking at another matchup here. We've got Bill Self and Kansas. Kansas, 23-16-1. First half unders this season. They are taking a pretty bad Howard team to the woodshed. I don't think you're going to get very many points out of Howard. Kansas, 33 in each of their last 2 first halves. The line on that one, 69 points, first half under. Drop it down. And lastly, John Calipari in Kentucky, 20-14-2. First half unders this year, taking on Providence. Should be a pretty interesting game. Total 68.5. Providence had 19 in the first half of their last game against UConn, 25 in the first half before that against Seton Hall. I think you'll see a little nerves, a little jitter, some turnovers. That's a recipe for under. All 3 of them, first half unders. We're dropping it down, boys.
Love that.
All right. Now, let's get to what the people want. We give the people what they want on this show. Final Fours, national champions. May I have the floor first? Can I drive the boat first,
Please, let's hear it.
I am going to look at the South region, and I hate doing this. I really do, because I hate Alabama. Not because the fact that they may or may not be involved in a Grizzly homicide, but I'm a Tennessee fan, and that obnoxious, fat, bacon-eating, roll-tide SOB is going to get on my nerves, but they're the best team in this region. I've got Alabama coming out there. When we go to the East, I really wanted to pull the trigger on Purdue, but man, I just am scared to death about that second-round matchup. I think Peter talked about that earlier. Against my better judgment, I'm pulling Marquette out of the East region. The Midwest, I like Texas. Somebody's going to have to beat Houston, but if Houston gets in a position to where they're trailing or they're going to have to score, I think they're in trouble. I like Texas, and I like Gonzaga coming out of the West. The West is the true wild, wild West out of this. You could pick a number of teams out of this, but I like Gonzaga out of that one. And my national championship game, Texas against Alabama. I am going with the state that has some of the best tax laws in America, the Texas Longhorns. Scott Long.
If we're going to start with the South, very difficult to play against Alabama. I don't think that region, the Arizonas, the Baylors, the Virginias, are not high-quality teams. I got to take Alabama. In the East, I don't like Duke. I don't like Tennessee. I don't like Kansas State. But I can't take Purdue. They don't make it to Final Fours, not since 1980, I believe, when Joe Barry Carroll was the center. So what I'll share with you right now is I'm going to take Michigan State. I'm going to throw a little thing on that one. Izzo will have that team flying. I like the defensive guards for Michigan State. Midwest, once again, not a huge fan of Houston. Don't love Sampson in the tournament always, and what's going to happen with Sasser, but it's really hard to pick anybody else. I don't think that side is very good. So I'm going to lean Houston even to beat Texas, because I don't know what Texas is going to do with an interim coach who has done well so far this year. Finally, West. Can't buy Kansas. they could lose in the second round. Hard to repeat. You don't see that very often. I was all over UCLA, lost the best defender in their conference, one of the best in the country. So it comes down to me between Gonzaga, UConn, and TCU. I'm telling you, all three of those. I would throw a little money on UConn and TCU if you're doing that to find the region, but I'll probably take UConn because I think they're tougher but can shoot, and TCU just can't deliver three-pointers consistently enough.
And your national champion?
My national champion, I have to go with Alabama. I would love to tell you I'm not, but that team is at a different level until they prove me wrong.
All right, Peter.
I'll keep it short. I'm with you guys on Bama. I like Texas to beat Houston in the Elite Eight. The Gonzaga UConn Elite Eight, the matchup that I have is the hardest one for me to pick. I think you could flip a coin there. I'll go with UConn just because they're better defensively. I think they're a more balanced team, but I hate to pick against Gonzaga the way they're playing right now. And then I actually do like Duke to come out of that region that Purdue's in. I just think they remind me a lot of North Carolina from last year. They're built a little bit differently, but the talent level is you're starting to see it come to fruition with the way they've played over the last couple of months. So I'll take Duke. I think Duke beats Bama in the Final Four. I think Texas beats UConn. And I hate Hammer. You had Texas, right?
Yes.
I really hate to do this, but I think hook 'em horns.
Come on over to the dark side, baby. There's always cold beer in the fridge and something good on TV on the dark side. Come on over.
I think they're playing better than anybody right now. I think there's a storyline there. They're playing for their coach. They love the guy. They're trying to get him the full-time gig. And they're experienced. They've got the physicality. They played in a great league. I love everything about Texas. So I'll go with the Longhorns.
All right, gentlemen, the bets are made. The bracket is filled out. Let the madness begin. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Peter Hood from Wish TV, comedian Scott Long. I'm Jason Hammer. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, if you got a beverage, raise it up. We're going to have a lot of fun this month. Cheers. Thank you for checking out the show. We'll talk to you soon.